Welcome back, my beautiful humans, to another episode of If I Die Tomorrow. We have done a few episodes, kind of heavy hitters, taking pause, forgiveness, faithfulness, all the big stuff. I want to do something a little bit more fun. It is obviously the week of Halloween, so let's talk about beyond the candy and what the dead teach us about living. I know. As you know, it is the question we always talk about. And this show is obviously about living purposefully. So you might be wondering why I talk about ghosts and ghouls. Well, first of all, it is a huge holiday in my house. Fan favorite around here, for sure. The decorations, the scenes. We have a cemetery and, the 12-foot giant skeleton that we named Steve. And we have Jack and Zero and new things. But we thoroughly enjoy Halloween around here. So I thought it would just be fun to talk about the actual holiday and some of its origins. And then, something a little bit more lighthearted. So, as I said, why talk about ghosts and ghouls? Well, it turns out Halloween and the many festivals like it worldwide is fundamentally about connection. It's about remembering those we've lost. So, embracing change and finding joy, even in the face of our own mortality. So, grab a fun-sized candy bar. I know you have one. And let's dive into the fascinating history and global heart of this very special time of year. I'm going to talk, obviously, about the history. The Halloween we know, with the plastic pumpkins and the questionable quality of spider webs, is actually over 2,000 years old. Its story begins with the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, primarily celebrated in what is now Ireland, the UK, and northern France. I did not know a lot of that until I did some research, and I thought I would share because I find it very interesting. And of course, my heart kind of goes out to Halloween. So the Celtics weren't just observing a scary night, they were celebrating their new year, which they marked on November 1st. I know around here it's January 1st, but back then it was November 1st. And actually, in some, actually, I shouldn't say that. And it is actually still known as the New Year. This date signified the end of summer and harvest and the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a time often associated with death, which actually makes a lot of sense because the winter actually brings on a blanket to cover the plants, and they just stop growing, and everything looks kind of dead. We all know it's not, but I'm not splitting hairs here. The key belief of Samhain, and the reason it connects so well to our show's theme, is the idea of the thinning veil. The Celts believed that on the night before New Year, the barrier between the world of the living and the world of the dead was at its thinnest. And that has been culturally repeated throughout the world. The ghosts of the dead could actually return to Earth. That is the belief. Now, instead of hiding under the covers, They did a few things that sound familiar. They built huge sacred bonfires to burn crops and animals as sacrifices. I know. We're talking 2,000 years ago, okay? They wore costumes, animal heads and skins. Yeah, I know, not what we think of today, but they did. And they didn't wear them for fun. They actually wore them to confuse any roaming spirits and ward off malevolent ones. That's a pretty good idea. They also honored their ancestors, setting places for them at the dinner table, which I find to be a very beautiful tradition. Samhain was a huge turning point, a time of transition. It's that moment when you acknowledge the darkness is coming, but you prepare for it with community, honor, and a little bit of fun in your disguise. Now, the tradition to All Hallows Eve. As you know, history loves a remix. And sometimes sequels are good. Just going to say that. As you know, the Roman Empire and then Christianity spread through Celtic territories. The ancient pagan traditions began to merge and meld with new Christian observances. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as a time to honor all saints and martyrs, a day called All Saints' Day. I did not know that either until I was doing some of this research. Or All Hallows Day. And the evening before it, October 31st, naturally became All Hallows Eve, which eventually morphed into Halloween, because we can't ever just keep anything the way it was. The church later designated November 2nd as All Souls' Day, a day for commemorating the dead. These Christian observances incorporated many of the same customs as Samhain, bonfires, parades, and of course, dressing up, but now as saints, angels, and devils. Yeah, we stopped wearing the animal and the fur. We chose another route. Cheap plastic masks that nobody could breathe through. I remember them from when I was little. You look at those pictures from the 70s and 80s, I'm telling you, those costumes were not comfortable. They just weren't. They were funny, but they weren't comfortable. This trick, or treat, is the blending of what gave us some of our most classic traditions. Trick-or-treating likely evolved from a practice called souling, where the poor would actually go door to door asking for food or soul cakes in exchange for praying for your loved one and your family. It was a wonderful practical act of charity that eased suffering and honored memory, which is beautiful. The jack-o'-lantern, that originated in Ireland, but they weren't carving pumpkins. They used turnips or potatoes, based on a folk tale about a man named Stinging Jack. If I have anybody listening from Ireland, please, I would love for you to fill me in on this, because I'm going to say this. I visited Ireland once and it was absolutely beautiful, and my heart wants to go back so bad. And I will get there. But anyway, I would love for you to tell me about Stinging Jack and actually Samhain. Hopefully I am not just butchering that word. But Stinging Jack, when Irish and Scottish immigrants brought the tradition to the US, they found the pumpkin to be a much bigger much better canvas for their spooky carvings. That's how we now carve on jack-o'-lanterns or have jack-o'-lanterns. So from warding off ghosts to celebrating saints, the through line is clear. It's all about acknowledging life, death, and the transition between. I think Halloween actually acts as a global reminder to celebrate life and death. And I know that you're probably thinking that's a weird way to look at it, but I've told you, I'm I'm a little weird. It's okay. Now let's look beyond the North American version of the what we know here to be the pumpkins and the candy and the costumes and all of that fun stuff. And let's start looking at this theme of remembering and honoring the dead around the change of seasons as a truly universal human experience. It reminds us that no matter where we live or how we celebrate, we share this deep need to honor those who shaped us and have left. Excuse me. I'm going to get into the most famous example of celebrating. And of course, it is the Day of the Dead, celebrated in Mexico and other Latin American countries from October 31st to November 2nd. See, it all encompasses it. Unlike the scary vibe of traditional Halloween, the Day of the Dead is a joyful, colorful celebration of life. It's a vibrant, loving tradition that firmly ties into our theme. They use the inevitable truth of death to celebrate the enduring power of memory and love. What's not to love about that? Families create beautiful altars in their homes, decorating them with marigold flowers, which are believed to guide spirits home, the favorite foods and drinks of the deceased, and photographs. So remember, next time somebody wants to take your picture, stop saying, "No, I don't want my picture taken." Take the picture. I might need it later. They treat the Day of the Dead like it's a family reunion. The spirits are invited back for a visit, a feast, and a party. It's a powerful, beautiful rejection of finality. It really is. It's another one of those pause moments. It reminds us that death isn't the end in some cultures. It's a change in a dress. But there are other beautiful, lesser known festivals with the same heart. In the Philippines, there is Pangangulawa. I know I just butchered that. I am so sorry. I don't know how to say it. I tried listening to the Google interpretation, over and over again to try and get it right. Yeah, obviously that didn't help. And I'm sorry. But in that celebration, children go door to door like American trick-or-treaters, but instead of demanding candy, they sing songs to represent the souls stuck in purgatory who are asking for prayers. They might get treats in return, but the primary purpose is to secure prayers for the departed. How neat is that? That's a beautiful twist on the trick or treat model. In Italy, on Day of the Dead, families honor their deceased, but in some regions, they also believe the dead bring sweets and small gifts to well behaved children. It is a sweet, comforting thought that even in death, our loved ones continue to care for us. And finally, in some parts of Austria, During their All Souls week, they leave bread, water, and a lighted lamp on a table before bed to welcome back any souls who might be visiting. Just be very careful. Please, please, please be very careful. It's a literal act of hospitality toward the dead, saying you're still part of the home. Be very careful. Very, very careful. So, as we've discussed now, there's a different perspective. Because what do all these traditions, from Samhain bonfires to colorful altars, tell us about living today? They give us a vital perspective. We spend so much time running from the idea of death, but these holidays teach us to lean into the discomfort of mortality. The costumes, the stories of ghosts, the visits to cemeteries, it's all a safe space to grapple with a big, scary truth that life is finite and no one is getting out of here alive. And when we do that, we realize how much we value the present moment and the people in it. It's another pause moment. The Celtics used the thinning veil to talk to the spirits of their ancestors and ask for guidance before the dark winter. They understood that the wisdom of the past, of those who came before us, is absolutely invaluable. I think we forget that sometimes. We can learn a lot. The people of Mexico use the holiday to laugh at death itself, to show love, and to ensure that the ones they love are never forgotten. Because to be remembered is actually to live on. We've discussed it, our legacy. I know, full circle. This is the purpose of embracing the spooky. It's a lighthearted annual reminder to live life worthy of remembrance. Are you being the kind of person your descendants would want to invite back to their colorful altar or to the table to have bread and water? Or a feast? Are you connecting deeply enough with people today that their memory will be a colorful altar in your own heart tomorrow? This week, as you're handing out candy or admiring the decorations, pause for a moment. Instead of just focusing on the sugar and the scares, try this simple "if I die tomorrow" exercise. Think of one person you've lost. And simply tell a story about them to someone else. It can be a funny one, it can be a sweet one, or even a weird one. I think that's what everybody would be about mine. Mine would be the weird one. But by sharing their story, you are actively bringing them back into the world for a brief, beautiful visit. You're building your own little altar of a memory. And when you look at it like that, it gives you a different perspective. And I'm grateful for that. Remember, you don't need a massive bonfire or a 3-day festival, although those would be fun. All you need is a moment to honor the past so that you can appreciate the now. I'm going to say that's it for this week. I want to thank you for stepping into the darkness with me to find some light, some laughter, and a little bit of history. I hope this holiday gives you a powerful and purposeful perspective on your own life. And until next time, be kind, be grateful, stay humble.